Thanks for listening to the Brian Brawdy Show. It's time to mortal up.
Welcome, one and all. It's time for your Freedom's Firewall, the bane of spoon-fed, ready minds everywhere, fighting the human derangement syndrome at each and every turn. It's Brian. I'm in, and very glad you joined us for today's ride. So what do you say? Let's get ready to mortal up. And I got to tell you, the human derangement syndrome, I chuckle every time I hear that, and I wrote it. So it's still funny to me when I hear it, because all you have to do is you look at everything going on social media, broadcast media, print media, just going on around. Human derangement syndrome, it is everywhere. Welcome to what I think is now episode of 500, 499, 98. This is 498. Of the Brian Brawdy Show, and I just want to make mention of all the people that reached out to me today on YouTube and Twitter and Facebook, all the nice things, even some of the not so nice things that people had to say. Thank you so very much for dropping us a line, letting us know what you thought about the show, and I thought we'd do a very, very small little recap today of what we're going to be doing, and then when we get into it, because I know you think to yourself, Brian, how do you write these lowlifes making headlines? How does it come across? Well, pretty soon, I think by starting Tuesday, if I'm correct, Wayne, by Tuesday, we'll be having a poll where you'll get to nominate who your lowlife making headlines is. And you're right. There are just so many people doing it. We could talk about, though we won't, other than for this brief little riff, we could talk about the mayor of Washington, D.C. that wants to tear down the Washington Monument. I know you're thinking, how does that person not win? Or the Philly mayor that decides to keep the restaurants locked down and then boogies over to the state of Maryland. The crabs there are very tasty. But I have to tell you, I like the crab sandwiches or the crab cakes. Eating crab, busting them up with a mallet, all those other things, too much work for me. So I'm confident that if he bolted over to Maryland, he had the crab cakes as opposed to the smacking of the crabs. But you know what? It's another reason I don't like chicken wings. I go out all the time and people say, oh, how would you like your wings prepared? I go boneless. And Ashley always looks at me and goes, why would you want boneless wings? And I go, well, I'd want boneless wings because they're easier. It's too much work to get into picking out the bones and everything. I go out to eat. I just want it to be easy. So crab cakes and boneless wings for me. All right, let's go ahead and jump right into it. If you're back for the whatever episode this is, I've forgotten already. Amnesia. It's a hell of a thing. If you're back to the new episodes of the show, our 500th episode, that I know for sure, will be on Tuesday. But what are some of the things that you can expect? We'll go over it very quickly. Of course, the media mania from the New York Crimes on down, Washington Compost, MSNBC, all of it. You get it. Then our lowlifes making headlines. It's a segment that everybody loves. Can't wait to do that every day because it's like shooting fish in a barrel. It's just too easy. It's just too easy. Then, of course, there's the woke, spoke, and choked files again. Just easy. Easy to write this stuff. It writes itself. I don't even know why I need to come down here and sit down and do all this. And, of course, wing sauce. How could you not have wing sauce be something that you want to talk about, especially with the election season that we're in right now? And, of course, to round it out, facts, lives matter. You know how I feel about that, right? Just like if I were Joe Friday, what was that old TV show, Dragnet? Just the facts, ma'am, right? Facts, lives matter. Let's get to the facts. Let's have the presumption of innocence. Let's make certain that everything is right, that we get all the information we can. Then we make the decision to protest and riot and apparently pillage and steal, right? All those things. But at least let's get the facts first. So that's going to be the beginning portion of each show. And then we're going to focus, the bulk of the show is going to be focused, obviously, on Mortal Up, because that's something that's very important to me. And we talked in the introduction on Facebook and over on Twitter. Don't forget, you can reach us here, Brian Brawdy Official, if you're on Facebook. Also over to Twitter, what I call Spitter. You're absolutely welcome to come over and pick a fight over there as well, if you like. It's at Brian Brawdy. Of course, you can reach us at mortalup.com. Tell us anything you like. But as I mentioned earlier, triggered Are you triggered? Do you feel yourself offended, maligned, right? Do you feel, I've seen this, I felt just ruined. I was just ruined by their words. So if you're a person that can be triggered, may I just ask, and I'd really like to learn this. I'm not being a smartass. Right? No, well, not more so than I normally am in person. I'm not trying to be a smartass. But this whole thing about needing comfort zones, this whole thing about being easily triggerable, right? Like someone else has a remote control. Like in the graphic that we had up here, and I'm sorry I don't have the picture of it itself, but in the opening graphic, a big sledgehammer getting ready to smash your nuts. They look like pecans, I think, maybe. I think they were pecans. But in any event, a hammer getting ready to smash your nuts. Is that what it means to be triggered? So the question that I would like to ask as we get into Mortal Up a little later this evening, the question I would like to ask is, you always hear about the human mind. Is it nature or nurture? Are you built, is it a tabula rasa, if you will, a clear slate, or do you come with some preloaded software that you later can use to develop your philosophies in life? So is it nature or is it nurtured? Are your parents, is Mother Nature responsible for it, or is your mom and dad responsible for nurturing these things into you? So what I'd like to know and what I'd like to talk about, and you're welcome, although it would have been pretty good to probably have this poll thing, we'll put this up on Tuesday, where you fit in all of this. Is it something that's pre-wired in you, or did you learn to be easily offended? Did you learn to have particularly thin skin? Did you learn literally to let someone else take a remote control pointed at you and ruin your day? Did you have to learn how to make all of this, right? Did you have to learn how to become permeable, right? So that everything is a sling and arrow, to quote Shakespeare, suffer the slings and arrows, right? To be or not to be, is it nobler, blah, 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 blah. Suffer the slings and arrows. So is that inborn in you? I think not, but I'm open for debate. Is it inborn in you, or is it something that you learned? You learn to be triggered. For me, I'm always thinking only the triggerable can be triggered. So if you don't want to be triggered, I have an idea. Let's say you don't. So you're not leaving yourself wide open to all these other people. So that's what we'd like to be able to discuss a little later on this evening. Come back to that topic and then just get your opinion. What do you think? Here, let us know on Facebook. Let us know on Twitter. Oh, and we're live on YouTube. I don't know if I mentioned that last night. Sorry, Wayne. We're live on YouTube, so thank you for all the comments over on YouTube as well. You're welcome to go ahead and get into the debate. Wayne tells me pretty soon we'll be adding a chat room, which we'll be able to look at, and then we'll take some of the live comments there as well. But where are you on that? And here's something else. A lot of comments on this last night. I'd love, again, to get other people's opinions. I promise you it will be a poll. Saw another video today. I don't want to do this before we get to Low Life's Making Headlines, because you're thinking, Bri, really? Low Life's Making Headlines? You had to pick Nancy Pelosi. Well, yes. And do you know why? Because I got tired of beating up on Lori Lightfoot, the mayor of Chicago, for running off during the lockdown, during the Wuhan shuffle, during all this, running over to her hairdresser to get her perm and makeup and probably nails while you're there. I don't go, so I wouldn't know, but I'd imagine you get the full Monty, right? You get the whole thing done. So I'm tired of beating up on Lori Lightfoot for sneaking out to her beautician. That's what they call them, beauticians. Do you think, what, really? After all that, that's what's right? A beautician? I wouldn't quit your day job. Oh, that is your day job. Well, maybe you should study being a beautician a little more, because some of these people that come out of there, clearly someone worked on them that wasn't a beautician. But in any event, clearly I'm not talking about anybody we know, right? But so I'm tired of beating up on Lori Lightfoot, and I thought, well, great, we'll go and make tonight's Low Life's Making Headlines. But since we went through all the trouble, let's just do this first. Low Life's Making Headlines, or as we like to call it around here, brains that make your blood boil. Here's your brittle brain atop a balsa wood spine for today. All right, so here's the scoop. When it comes to brains that make your blood boil, let's just say Nancy Pelosi, let's just say she didn't know the security camera was on in San Francisco, in a city that's been locked down. And for you and me, I know you're thinking, Bri, how do you keep that hairstyle of yours looking so, right? I got like the Mikhail Gorbachev. If they allow us to have Halloween, if the government allows us to have Halloween this year, I'm thinking I'm just going to paint this shunt scar line with a black, like a marker, a magic marker. What are they called? El Marcos, black one. And I'm going to go as Mikhail Gorbachev, which is somewhat of an older joke. Most young people, who are we kidding? There's no young people listening to this. Mikhail Gorbachev, they don't probably even remember who he is. But in any event, so you're thinking, Bri, you don't go to a hairdresser? You don't go to a beautician? No. So you'd be well within your right to not know there's a security camera on. But suppose I'm in San Francisco. Suppose the city's locked down. Suppose not only is the business in the lockdown city closed, you can't get your bald spot buffed, right? You can't get your eyebrows, your goatee. You can't get anything done. It's locked down. You're not allowed in. Oh, unless you're a Speaker of the House, because apparently if you're Nancy Pelosi, you can just say, great, I want them open, and I'm going to go in. Oh, and I'm not going to wear a mask. Well, I checked. I know a lot of people that go to get their hair cut, and they won't let you in without a mask. Real good friend of mine said, nope, I'm not going to wear a mask. And the guy goes, we could cut your hair in the parking lot. She goes, great. Cut it right here at the trunk of my car. Fantastic. I'll sit right here. You can work your magic. But for other people, they don't get to go in and have their hair done, whatever that means. I got to tell you, I saw an after picture. She needs to get a refund, whatever it is. That's the travesty of all this. Nancy needs a refund because it just didn't work. So in any event, I go to this city. It's in lockdown, right? Everyone, just right? Everyone. No one can move. All the businesses are closed. None of the beauticians, none of the hairstylists, none of the not cosmologists. What do they work with? Telescopes? Oh, they very well could. If you see this haircut, whoever cut her hair did it with the benefit of a telescope. I'll give you that much. What is it? I don't even know what it's called, but you know where I'm going with. It begins somewhere, cos something or other, right? So they go to school to be to get these degrees. So you go, but Bri, if you were able to go in that city, even if they were open, you'd have to wear a mask. You couldn't be in there running around without a mask. What would happen to you if you went out without a mask? Oh, perish the thought, something horrible, no doubt. So you can't have that happen. Oh, unless you're Speaker of the House, right? So this lowlife making headline decides, oh, I'll go in. I don't need a mask. Now you're thinking, Bri, you're just picking on her. No, I'm not. I'm not picking on her for going in and getting her hair done, her face, her makeup, whatever it is. Going in and getting it done, opening a business. Hey, did you bring your key? Yeah, meet me over here. Unlock. I'm not even blaming her chief of staff for kind of trying to come to her defense, as one would, right? But today, she turns around and blames the store owner, saying she was entrapped. He goes, oh, it's not my fault. She scammed me. I think the term was, she set me up. So wait a minute. You knew the place was locked down. You're the one that won't go on TV. You're kneeling in the hall of Congress. You're doing this. You're doing that. You and little Chucky Schumer, can't go to the podium without your masks on. You got your scarf just in case, right? You never can tell. You got to pull that, right? Even though it's blocking your triple chin, you got to pull that scarf up. You got to be ready to go just in case. You never can tell. Wuhan wheeze could be anywhere. So you pull up this mask. Well, she didn't do any of that. And what does she do? She turns around the day and says, I was set up. And you've even got people now, which, right? You talk about blames that make your blood boil, and you go, no, Bri, really? Yes. Wayne found a story for me earlier today that said there are now people going, well, it was illegal to tape her. That's wrong. We're going to launch a major investigation. Get Adam Shifty Shift. We're going to conduct a House panel to see, can the Speaker of the House be recorded without her knowing about it? Oh, my goodness. We elect these people. Really? Think about it. And I know you're thinking, look, get off the guy from South Carolina. Who was he? The one guy. I really do forget his name. I'm not trying to be disparaging to him. But the guy that said he thought the island of Guam would tip over. You'd think his name would jump right to the top of my mind, but a good portion of it's gone, really. Just look at the scars. The island of Guam will tip over if we put any more tanks or military people on it. So it rises to that level. Hank Johnson, thank you very much, brain. See, from the back of Brian's brain. Hank Johnson, your elected official from somewhere in the South. Oh, yeah, well, we're worried about the island tipping over. Now you got somebody on the left coast, California going, oh, we got to look into this. We need a major investigation. We contacted DOJ, the FBI. For the hell of it, we threw in the DEA. There's got to be something. We want an investigation. The Speaker of the House was tape recorded, video recorded without her knowledge. That's got to be illegal. So what does Nance in her pants do? What does Nance do? She comes out and says, I blame the store owner for setting me up. I blame. So that's why she gets the Lowlifes Making Headlines Award for today. Oh, and we have a very nice little award. We should get a picture of that, Wayne, and we'll be able to show everybody a little certificate. We send it off in the mail, right? It just says, oh, you're today's Lowlife Making Headlines Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi. She gets it because instead of just saying, weak moment, she goes, no, it's not my fault. It's their fault. Let me ask you, got anybody like that in your life? You catch them. They got the bag of cookies. They got the double stuffed Oreos in their hands, mouths full of them, out here to the side. You got any cookies? Cookies, spitting out little pieces of chocolate. You can see the double fudge. If you're going to eat an Oreo, eat the double fudge. That's all I'm saying, right? It's just tasty. So their mouth is packed full, and they go, wasn't me. And then when you catch them, instead of going, oh, yeah, well, it's your fault. You left them out. You left them on the counter. You didn't hide them. You left them right here in this cookie jar with a lid. The lid isn't locked. So I just assume because the lid wasn't locked, that means I'm allowed to get into it. And because I'm allowed to get into it, I just thought that meant any of the cookies that were in here were, in fact, mine. So technically, the fact that I ate a dozen double-stuffed Oreos, it's your fault. Not my fault, right? I'm just a guy. There was a bowl of M&M peanuts or they're on the dining room table, so I decided to eat the whole thing. Not my fault. The person that put the M&M's peanuts there in the nice decorative little dish, I think it's their fault. Really? You expect that from a 5-year-old. You don't expect it from the Speaker of the House. So she today, right before showtime, says, I blame the owner. And I'm almost certain this was the right quote, I was set up. And she goes, well, I don't think you expect me to get my hair washed with a mask on. Again, I would love to know. Anyone, please let me know over here on Facebook or on Twitter, anywhere you can get a hold of me. Text me right now for all I care. Have you gone to a place where you were able to do all this stuff without a mask? Or do you have these bouncers of hairdressers standing here at the door with their arms folded going, we don't let anyone in without a mask? Just aggravating. So in any event, Speaker Pelosi, congratulations. You are our winner today for Lowlifes Making Headlines, because it's just unbelievable to me that someone that writes laws, which is why I say all the time, you and I are beneath the law, right? Above the law. I know it was a great movie, right? Steven Seagal. I don't hold it against him. He's getting older, but Above the Law, great movie. But here's politicians, for the most part, professional politicians for certain. Politicians flittering around, oh, I'm above the law. This doesn't matter to me. I could get my hair cut. And the rest of us are being beaten down beneath the law. We're the ones, right? So I wrote on Facebook, dual process, DUAL. There's a different process for politicians, for the elites, than there are for the rest of us. Raise your hand if you've been able to go to get your hair done and you go, no, I don't think I wear a mask. Do they still let you in to cut your hair? I'd like to know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there is somebody out there, somebody else like Nancy that was able to get it done. But in any event, she's our Lowlife Making Headlines for today. And also, I would just ask you in the future, drop us a line, let us know. Do you have other examples where politicians think that they're so far above the law? The law is like a landing strip at an airport, and they're like the 30,000-mile view. You and I are the ones with the law on our backs trying to do everything we can to keep from being crushed by it. Right? Like the mayor in Philly, busy going, making sure all those restaurants are closed down because, COVID has the staying power of a Twinkie on a store shelf. Please. Don't even get me started. But I did want to mention this today. Someone said to me, well, what do you think about all the things, in terms of writing the content and doing some of these things? And I have to tell you, writing doesn't come necessarily easy to me, right? It doesn't. It really doesn't. As you could probably tell if you've watched any of the first nearly 500 episodes of the show, writing doesn't come easy to me. But what does come easy to me is being annoyed by people. You ever get that way? People are they're just the worst, some of them. And they're annoying. They're like mosquitoes. You're annoyed. So here's what I do. And here's what we do for the show. I write these little scripts to answer this question I was given earlier. I write these scripts. I do these little things. And I write about the things that annoy me. Makes it simple. In the normal course of a day, you can write 10, 12, 15, sometimes 24 if you read through all the different places, all the media outlets. There's all kinds of stuff that gets to be annoying. And I'm just decided that for the first part of our show, that's what we're going to write about. So we can get it all out of our system, like taking a nice hot shower at the end of the day and just getting all that mashugana out of our minds. So in the final 10 minutes, if we're doing a half-hour show, the final 20 minutes when we're doing an hour show, we can focus on the mortal up. And that's what I want to turn to now. It looks like we got, a little less than 10 minutes left. Let's go ahead and jump right in. It's time to tune out the herd, because everything you've ever needed, you've always had. So bring your own bold and let's go mortal up. I have to tell you, when I write herd, someone goes the other day, oh, you have a typo. You meant to spell it H-E-R-D, like a herd of sheep, a herd of lemmings, a herd of whatever. No, I wrote it H-E-A-R-D, and I meant it that way, right? The herd. Well, I heard it, so it's got to be true. It's got to be true. Got to be. I saw it on the internet. It's got to be true. So, or if you're tired of dealing with the herd, what is this mortal up you hear me talking about? We got it on shirts. We got it on koozies. We got it on coffee mugs. We got it everywhere. Well, mortal up is the concept that I created, or I mean simply to say that I think every human being is a superhuman. But what happens is we begin to suffer as we get older, a little bit of amnesia. Now, there's all kinds of people, politicians, just all of them. I just don't want to beat up on politicians. There's all kinds of people, you know who I'm talking about, that are perfectly willing to able and abet your amnesia, because they don't want you remembering what a badass you truly are. So they're perfectly comfortable with you forgetting your natural resources, your grit. I call your buried logic. They're like, whoa, you put me down. I'm all over them forgetting how powerful, how masterful, how creative, how brilliantly intelligent they are. So I'll do anything I can to dummy them down. Let's spike their water. Let's drop something in their drink. Let's make them just as gullible as we possibly can. So mortal up is my suggestion. You don't need motivation. You need to remember who you ultimately are. You need to remember that you come pre-equipped with all these tools. Now, when we get back to the part that I wanted to talk about, or we did talk about earlier, the moniker for today, about triggered. You weren't born knowing how to be triggered, right? And I think a lot of it, look, let's just be honest. We were born, probably should put the disclaimer right here, right? Right, this might not be for younger audiences, right? We're all born, we're one big set of lips looking for a nipple. We're all groping around. So we're looking for outside sustenance. But I think what happens is there's a fork in the road, a bifurcation point, right? And what happens is people grow very accustomed looking for outside sustenance. You gotta, You gotta be able to breathe. You got to be able to drink. You got to be able to eat. You got to be able to hear. You got to be able to see. And we could get into the whole quantum physics argument of whether seeing actually takes place out there or it takes place in here, into the back of your brain. But just bear with me for a minute, right? You're taking this all in. You're taking. Well, I think what happens to the people that are triggered, they don't jettison that mindset at a certain age where they go, well, I need a drink if I'm thirsty. I need food if I'm hungry. I need some light if I can't see. I need a sound if I can't hear. So I need other people's opinions to be as important to me as food or oxygen or water, right? And all I'm simply suggesting is those people, it's a stunted growth, right? When you go, well, I'm terribly offended. Okay, but here's what I always do when I get into those discussions. Why are you offended? Well, because that's wrong. No, I didn't ask you if what I said was right or wrong. I asked it, how are you offended? How are you depressed? How are you like those nuts in the picture that get smacked with a hammer? How have I physically reached inside and shut off your windpipe? How have I physically reached in and did something to trigger you, to malign you, to offend you, right? So I don't think it's toxic masculinity. Everyone's running around, oh, toxic masculinity, that's going to be our downfall. Do you know what I think it is? I think it's toxic sensitivity. Everyone is so sensitive. Why are they sensitive? Because they didn't learn to jettison that need for outside stimuli. You could take in a person's opinion and you go, yes, but I don't believe that. Let me ask you a question. You're triggered by something that someone says. Well, what if someone says you have pink hair and you don't have pink hair? Are you offended because they said, you know, it's obviously not true. You don't have pink hair. You're like me. You don't have any hair. Or you have silver hair. Or you have blonde hair or whatever color hair you have. You got a nice full head of black hair. Are you upset because someone said you had pink hair? You go, no, I think they're nuts. If not nuts, they're at least colorblind. You got to give me that. Well, it's the same thing with someone saying something to you. You can only get offended with your own permission. You can only be triggered with your own permission. You can only, and I've said this before if you've listened to the show over the years, it's like a doorbell ringing. You go to the door, you put down what you're doing, you go to the door, you open it, and someone's there with 2 cans of spray paint, and they go, hey, would you mind if I come in? Oh, I'd like to spray paint my graffiti all over the inside of your house. Would you mind? If I did, I know you have white walls. I've got this dark blue. It's like metallic blue spray paint. It's going to really stand out on your walls. What would you do? You'd go, no, get out of here. You'd shut the door, lock the deadbolt, and you'd be done with it. Why would you let those same people in your own mind to run around and spray paint their mashugana, spray paint their craziness, spray paint their baloney inside of your own mind? Of course you wouldn't do that. Unless you're triggered, unless you're mortified, unless you're offended, unless you're upset, all those other things. Or you could go, yeah, I don't have toxic sensitivity. You're welcome to your opinion. As you've known for a while now, I'm a huge fan of the First Amendment, not because it's in the Constitution, not because of the Bill of Rights, not because any of that. I think every human being ought to have the right to say what he or she feels. And I have a right to either be triggered by that or not be triggered by that. I have the right to be offended by it or not be offended by it. I have the right to be toxically sensitive or not toxically sensitive, right? Let me ask you a question. Well, anybody here lactose intolerant? Eat a big bowl of ice cream and you go, I'm going to pay for that, right? You're lactose intolerant. Well, what if you're bullshit intolerant? What if you decide, oh, you know what? No more BS from people. I'm not going to let it in. What if you're snarky intolerant? People can be snarky. If you follow me on Facebook, there's plenty of snark there with all the keyboard courage types. Oh, I'll show him. I'll fix his wagon. Wait till I send this, but I unlike or this or that, which is why if you could help me out on Facebook, sign up. I should be doing a petition. I hope soon. I would like an enemies list. And that just is for all the people that don't want to be my friends, they're welcome to sign up to the enemies list. Wouldn't that be hysterical? All the snark, all the keyboard courage. It's in one cool little file. Now that's comedy. I got to tell you, that's it. All right. I can see by the clock on the wall, it's almost time to get out of here. Thank you for letting me just blather on. And please reach out to mortalup.com. Please, again, Brian Brawdy on Twitter, as we affectionately call it, Spitter. Also, Brian Brawdy Official. You can leave us an idea if you have a show idea, if you have a nomination. Wayne is working really hard to make the website the go-to place where you can just basically just vent. Let us know what you think. Starting next week, you'll be able to send texts in. You'll be able to call in. We've got all kinds of ways of interacting, and that will be starting next week. All right, we're going to go ahead and get out of here. We'll see you tomorrow, 8 p.m. Eastern, for episode 499. Until then, be safe. Don't buy into all the mashugana. Don't let them drag you down. And for goodness sakes, mortal up.
Thanks for listening to The Brian Brawdy Show. Until next time, get out there and mortal up.